And recording is live.
Hey, everybody, Michael Harden, Chairman, Parking Authority for Norwalk. It is a regularly scheduled monthly meeting. It's December 16th at 6:05. Kick it off with our public comment session. Can Anthony or Jess, can you see if anybody is here from the public that would like their 3
At
minutes?
this time, I do not see any public attendees. No.
All right. And it is a little after 6 already, so I would expect to see if there was. We didn't expect anybody anyway, so. All right, well, let's roll forward here. The minutes from the Parking Authority meeting held November 18th. Corrections on that or a motion to accept as is?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that.
Judd, Ali, second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, I see hands. I don't see Judd. Judd said aye. Yes, Judd?
Yes, sir.
Then that's a unanimous vote. Thank you all. Very quickly, I'm going to talk a little bit on the chairman's report. We are going to be discussing the budget today. I have asked the guys, Stathi and Rocky, to look at sort of a more extreme version of really cutting back and what that looks like. I don't expect to see an answer tonight, but we are in a position now with our budget to have to be extremely careful and pay attention over the next month. We're going to be really looking at what the pandemic has done to us and, kind of bracing ourselves a little bit for what we're going to need to do in the future to make sure that we don't have too much of a fall. We're going to hear from Brian Bitoli. Hey, Brian. Everybody, this is Brian. He's going to be giving us a presentation on the Sono train station and Chestnut. What is it? Does it have a name? I don't know if the project has a name.
South Norwalk train station study right now.
It's the study. Okay, it's a study. And Anthony, we're gonna let him share his screen. You're gonna want to share your screen.
Yes, please.
Yes, if you can make that possible.
Granted.
So, as we go through this meeting, you're going to see that we have done some interesting relief efforts for a couple of very large businesses in Norwalk that always, that work very closely with us, basically parking. And one of them is the Maritime Center, of course, and the other one is the Sono 50, the two large, basically customers of ours that use the parking. And I think that we've done a pretty good job in helping where we could as a parking authority to do that moving forward. So let's not waste too much time on that. It's really all I really have. That was pretty much it. And so rolling on to number 4. So we put Brian first in case he had other things to do. I wanted to respect his time for that. The Sono master plan. There it is, Brian. You want to share your screen, everybody? This is Brian. He's going to give us, what did you say? 90 seconds, right?
Yeah, solid 90. I could get it done.
Hopefully, anyway, 10 or 15 minutes, and then maybe we could do a little Q&A session. But why don't you take over?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Is everyone seeing my screen okay?
Yes.
Good. All right. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you all. For those of you I haven't met, I know Eric. Eric is my neighbor, so hopefully it's not snowing too hard over there, Eric. It's great to meet you all. I'm the new executive director here at the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency. I started about 11, actually it's a year. It's been a year. It just says December 9th. So I wish I would, be able to get in front of you all sooner, but I've had conversations with some of you individually, but it's nice to meet you all. So one of the projects that we've sort of embarked upon, we're in the very initial stages here, is taking a look at the sort of long-term future of the South Norwalk train station. Many of these discussions were occurring before I arrived. I know Jess was involved in a number of them. But it's really centered around a localized area immediately adjacent to the train station. And sort of the origin of this study area was, it was a really organic discussion that was occurring in terms of some development interests and development potential that existed in the train station area. As notated by marker number 1 here, you have the South Norwalk train station. This is, of course, the surface parking lot asset that the parking authority, oversees. You have the ongoing development with Spinnaker here at 1 Chestnut, and then the potential development here at 30 Monroe with Henry. You have the opportunity on the western side of the tracks, the SNU property, sort of a decommissioned plant. This is really the highest and best use of that facility directly next to the train station. And then also the housing authorities really been looking to modernize some of their existing housing stock. So what we wanted to do is, rather than have all of these, development projects or interests and ideas occurring separately, is really trying to take a look at it holistically. Take a look at what's the development potential, what's the market calling for, both now and in the long term. And then once we achieve that sort of development, what's the appropriate circulation pattern, what's the appropriate parking and the like. So taking a really comprehensive look and trying to figure out how we can re-envision this entire train station area, because coming new to town and just seeing this is a huge opportunity. I mean, there's not many stops in the Northeast where you have this many publicly controlled assets ripe for redevelopment. So I think this is going to be a good opportunity for us all to work together to sort of plan out a vision and see what really is the best use for the area. So in terms of like I said, we're in the very initial stages here. We've just sort of selected the consultants. Kathy Hebert was involved in the selection of that, so you were all adequately represented on the selection from that perspective. But we really started with some questions when we went out to go look for that consultant, to ask ourselves, what is the highest and best use of the area? How can we best accommodate affordable housing? And the housing authority has been very adamant about a 1-to-1 replacement ratio. So making sure that we don't, reduce any housing that already exists in our, plans for redevelopment. What are the parking and infrastructure needs and limitations in this area? I think that's a big question that everyone's sort of facing right now. You have the snapshot in time that is COVID, and trying to figure out what sort of demand reduction that would, involve or result in. But we want to, not just look in front of our face here, but also what is long-term, recognizing the robust wait list that existed prior to COVID, and also looking at opportunities to expand your asset base and expand the revenue generation opportunities as part of this project. Looking at public-private partnerships, I think that's my background really. I've worked in both the public and the private sector on real estate development projects, and really trying to broker that gap to figure out, once we develop our recommendations, how do we finance implementation that isn't coming to the city, with the handout, of course. Looking for federal and state investment to help with some of these capital improvements and the like. And of course, we have these other goals that are coming directly from our redevelopment plans. We have, looking at the historic preservation aspect of it. You have Lexington Avenue Historic District that goes down to the south. And then how will the larger TOD area plan interact with our other TOD plans in the area? Also the zoning updates that are ongoing at the city, and then other sort of initiatives that have been ongoing. We sort of identify, the general interest in a type of development that can be accommodated in the area and that is desired by the community. We're going to want to take a really close look at the details, taking a look at the appropriate density, how we plan to mass these buildings, how we look at the streetscape, how we make these connections with the existing neighborhoods. So it's not, although we are focused on that study area, we're very cognizant of looking at their transections into other neighborhoods. And of course, as I sort of mentioned, what impact is COVID-19 going to have, not only on the market demand for certain office or residential use types, but of course parking, and wanting to make sure we try to balance that and address that as adequately as possible. We brought on a market analyst team with RKG, who's operating as a sub for VHB, who's the primary consultant on this project. And we'll be taking a really close look at all of those sort of considerations and wanting to get your feedback as well throughout the process so that we could, understand, what's worked in the past and what you expect for the future, what you hope for the future. One of the other things too, I think there's a great opportunity given the fact that there's, publicly controlled assets in the area is there an opportunity to really reestablish or reinforce the South Norwalk train station as a multimodal transportation hub? Potentially looking at, well, we definitely will be looking at transit routing, potentially looking at along the MLK corridor or routing it on the western side of the tracks rather than the current configuration or plans that were sort of discussed in the past. And then also obviously looking at the economic benefits and impacts of everything within the context of a preferred development scenario. Once we sort of identify what that is, we've achieved consensus on that, wanting to make sure that we adequately model it and we can really understand what we're getting into from a financial perspective. So in terms of the scope, we have a 3-phase project or 3-task project. It's 2 phases. It's right now we're in the very initial stages here. We just hosted our kickoff meeting. We're pulled together the advisory committee and we're doing existing conditions analysis. We intend for that to occur through the remainder of this year. And then once we get into next year, really hitting the ground running with some of the public outreach and the market work that we would like to do to start framing out some sort of development scenarios in the 2nd phase of the project. And once we get to that phase is when the more detailed analysis and modeling will occur around these sort of concept plans that we developed. We have a robust public involvement plan. It was really important to develop. We want to make sure that we involve people throughout the community and also obviously adjacent to the property. I'm open to sending you any of this information for your comment, review, however detailed you'd like to get. I'm happy to share it. But we plan to do a couple of public outreach meetings, most likely virtually given our current situation. But we'll be having regular advisory committee meetings and bi-weekly meetings at the staff level to address anything that comes up along the way. So here's really our schedule. I'm hoping this will result in a 9-month project. We're moving forward. We're on track in the first 3 weeks, which is a good solid starting point. But this is also included in the public involvement plan. And as I said, this is really the introductory. Nothing has been, really decided, or just framed out the work program that we intend to follow. And I'm really relying on you all to I would be very helpful to hear your reactions tonight, some of the considerations you think we should be making, or some of the just anecdotal stories that you all have given your involvement working with the parking authority. So was that 90 seconds, Mike, or am I over? You're on mute, Mike, I think.
Yep. No, that was perfect. As long as you don't continue. No.
I'm done. I'm done. Don't worry.
Nice.
All
Well,
right.
let's do me a favor. Do me a favor and bring back your screen. And because I do have a couple questions. Can you bring back that first map?
Not a problem. Yep. Let me pull up real quick.
Hello?
Right here. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's there.
Great.
Well, while he's doing that call, Brian, parcel 4, there's been some development on that already, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly the status. Maybe Jess could speak a little bit more to that. I'm not sure what the scope of work was there. Are you on, Jess?
I think I can answer that one actually.
No,
Brian. Where you have the 3 areas there that is already developed. So is that a building that you guys see that it's finished, that is very along MLK? And then where's the parking lot? That area is still open. But the top section of that lot, Discala just put out a residential building in there.
On the lower part of parcel of area 4.
Well, it is lower looking at the map, but it's actually higher if you think about elevation.
Yes. Yes. So then, Brian, that might change. It seems like that would have an impact on your study. And then additionally, the Safavia furniture store is sort of carved out along West Washington. Is there, why is that parcel not included?
Where are you looking at?
On,
Isn't that more east over here, the Salvia by over by the park?
It's straight in the middle, but just to the right of 6.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
That's the housing authority offices, as I understood.
Wait,
He
where am I?
means to the
Yes,
upper
that's the
right
housing
of that.
authority.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yeah. So,
That's supposed to be in there. That's a good catch. The consultant's actually updating that. We just didn't include, the housing authority has asked us to put that in.
okay. All right. Yeah, because it seems odd to go around something.
I'm back.
Yeah, that would be in there. And then in terms of just as contextually, so the private development opportunities, I mean, there's obviously private development going on here too at One Chestnut with the Spinnaker project.
Yeah.
The reason why they're kind of called out is we just want to make sure that we're considering them both in terms of the sort of additional traffic that they're going to be generating. So when we look at the circulation in the area, that all of this new development is being considered holistically.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Brian, I think you called my name, but I was just working on something. So did you get what you needed? I think Vanessa.
we're good.
answered.
Yeah.
we're just,
Cool.
So
Thanks,
Brian,
everybody.
just I don't know if it's philosophically or what the basis is or the premise of the question is, but all of this development would be in support of the urban core, right? So when and what kind of thinking goes into the specific contents of the development so that it supports the urban core? Or is a project like this expanding the urban core to be more of what's in the urban core?
yeah, and I think that's, into the first part of your question, I mean, we really want to take a look at the market, right? And part of that is to take account and stock on how it might cannibalize other uses in the area as well, or support, or be complementary to. I think that's the right mix that we're trying to look for. Is what uses can we identify here that are complementary to what's going on in the urban core? Well, in a way, expanding it, yeah. I mean, I guess it's, kind of breaking down the geographical boundary in the mind and saying, how do we enhance the connection from the train station to Sono, but also areas to the south, and we're trying to find the adequate balance between the differing needs in both of these.
Oh, sorry, hold on.
That's all right.
Nice.
So, yeah, so that's part of it. We're definitely gonna be looking, that's gonna be part of the whole discussion.
Thanks, Brian. I have one quick question. Up just to the right of the 6th section here, housing, right? This
Correct.
right section that's not outlined, isn't this where the housing building is?
That's the housing authority offices. So what we were
The
trying to do
offices?
is consolidate these sites, and there's a huge, I see a really direct opportunity this entire site, aggregating it somehow.
Yeah.
Replacing
So
the parking, having an intermodal center here with some additional development.
So that was my question, because the offices aren't in the redevelopment circle, but they
Right.
they probably should be.
They will be, yeah. That's what Eric was talking. That was just,
Yeah.
the consultant didn't outline it, but that is being added.
Oh, okay, good.
Correct.
So I missed. So if I could interrupt for a second, and I apologize for the interruption earlier, but I was told that although the meeting was posted correctly, and we are here allowed to meet legally and publicly, the agenda did not get posted correctly. So we will not be voting tonight on anything. And we will take that up. We'll be able to talk about everything, but after the meeting's over, we'll figure out how to get back together and vote on anything we need to vote on tonight. So I apologize, but that's we'll just have to do that separately. All right, continue. Questions? More questions? Judd? I do notice that the school is not involved here. This is Columbus Magnet. Columbus Magnet, the building and the ball field, that is not part of our redevelopment. We're leaving that alone.
Yeah, I mean, it's in terms of, this prescriptive boundary here, this is, looking for redevelopment opportunities in terms of, reusing land or potential, accommodations for that. But we're definitely going to be looking at the connections, sort of these gray
Yeah.
areas or, represented.
I mention that because there has, over the last couple of years, there has been a tremendous push to try to get that school redeveloped. It's one of our older buildings, and the school it's a phenomenal school, but it really needs to be reworked in some way. And if that's the case, then it may fold itself into some of this redevelopment as well in some way.
Well, it's helpful information, definitely. I think we're gonna want to bring that into the discussion.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else got anything?
Yeah, just one more thing.
Yeah.
And again, it's just probably for my my understanding. So what's highlighted here, is it the boundaries of the TOD?
It's sort of just the as I talked, the origin was really related to these ongoing discussions with the ongoing or individual development opportunities that were being assessed, but it's not limited in terms of how we're going to be considering their connections to the other neighborhoods. So it's it's definitely going to be looking at a more holistic approach, but here's where we identify really significant opportunities for land development, and we want to be as focused and tailored on that so we could develop an implementation plan that, from my perspective, Eric, is really to help generate federal and state investments. So we want to be very targeted in that regard, rather than creating a wish list of everything and anything. Really being highly focused on these high value, high potential opportunities.
Okay. I hate to harp on it, but sometimes these discussions can, especially around a train station, things can be enhanced or developed to the point where the surrounding areas suffer. And I think over on, like on Water Street, for example, there's the completion of Washington Village, and then there's the 123 Water Street that's still under construction, I think trying to wrap up. So it's just a little, and maybe it's too early to even be concerned about this, but even to the south on Chestnut Street, there's there are parcels that are prime for the same kind of thinking as this, and so if I'm understanding what you're saying, you're focusing on these 6 areas because they're well, I thought you said they were already under control, but lot 2 is private, and it sounds like lot 4 is private.
Yeah, and a lot of lot 3, I think.
And 3, where's 3? Yeah, 3 is private. So I just everybody talks about the value of being adjacent to a train station, and that's one of the strong points of South Norwalk is the train station. But if the train station gets developed to the point where you don't have to go to the rest of South Norwalk, to the urban core, to the real core of South Norwalk, then it'll be to the detriment of the area. And so I guess, like I said, it's probably, maybe it's too soon to even be talking about it, but it's just a little concerning that, that if this is going to become its own district and its own thing that's really not South Norwalk, then I think that it would be beneficial to sort of understand what is the vision of it.
Right. So I think a couple of points. So it is very early on in this study, right? So this is just the initial reactions, and this is exactly what we need to hear right now. And I think this graphic isn't really doing it much justice in terms of the actual considerations we're going to be making to the adjacent communities. We've already spent a lot of time thinking about South Norwalk and our potential, issues with, potential gentrification or anything like that, but also looking at the commercial impacts that it may have on Sono and that area. We want to achieve balance. This isn't, we're not really trying to shift demand. We're trying to understand demand and then figure out how best to distribute it so that it doesn't cannibalize demand in other areas or create negative economic impacts in areas to the south or west or wherever it is, based on the development opportunity here. So the reason why these are highlighted, though, is these are the areas that we're going to be performing the advanced level of analysis to do just that, for us to determine, okay, so we have a certain market demand. How much can we distribute to this site, both in terms of economic capture, right? How much of the market activity is it going to be captured, whether that's residential, commercial, or retail, and then also for traffic. So we can make sure that whatever development, and to your point about these are private, yes, they are private, but we want to consider them based on their, transportation and infrastructure impacts as a result of this. So the targeted analysis, this is really the study area for that targeted analysis that I'm talking about, but it is in no way at the expense of the other things that you're talking about, because I think those are hugely important and they need to be a very robust part of this plan.
He's muted, but does that answer your question, Eric?
It does, but I think if we're studying how to make a train station potential multimodal facility service the community, it seems to me that you would leave the private sector to respond to that, and not let the private sector's opportunities play a role in it.
But in terms of, I guess the only question I have for you then is, how would you then accommodate the infrastructure needs when you're adding development to the area without considering that? And I think this is more of a technical item that we could definitely, I could be happy to follow up discussion on.
It's too soon. It's too soon. I agree. I just, my concern is I just don't want this to, I don't see, it's not going to do any of us any good. It's from a parking authority perspective. If this gets developed to the point where everyone that needs to come to South Norwalk, either drives or lives or gets off a train here, never leaves here, all the other assets are going to suffer, and those assets suffer, and the suffering of those assets would be the canary in the coal mine of what businesses are going to experience.
Yeah, your points are very well heard, I think.
But Eric, we have housing dispersed throughout South Norwalk. I mean, the building the two of you live in, we have all that new housing on Water Street. We have the hotel, and eventually I think something's probably going to happen with the Webster lot long-term out there. So I just see this as one part of all of South Norwalk and as a transportation center. I like that. I know that idea of moving the bus depot down here. I remember Bruce Beinfield did a presentation on that 4 or 5 years ago. I thought it was really great. So I only see this enhancing everything else. And if this area of the train station is a really thriving, great place, it's going to draw people. I would hope to take the train into South Norwalk and then walk over to the aquarium and stuff like that, as opposed.
No, I agree, Judd, completely, and I certainly share that hope. But if you look at, these are fairly large private development opportunities here that, zoning regulations probably mandate that they put commercial, restaurant, retail on the ground floor. Mm-hmm. So. I don't know that. I'd have to, look into that. But if you have this, I think you're right. If you have this much, then at some point, the rest of it could suffer. Is just my thought.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess if it's going to be a multimodal transportation hub study, then it should be that. But I just, in looking at this, my initial reaction to it is that it could, everyone's logic is going to be good, and it's going to, there's lots of smart people around this, but if zoning requires ground level retail and commercial, then look at what's left of lot 4, the entirety of lot 3, and what's under construction, already built, and will be built on lot 2. You know, so I that's my concern. So I'm
okay. I now I have a better understanding of what you're talking about, and it seems to me that as time goes on, zoning is going to have to change. I believe they reduced the retail restaurant requirement for Toll Brothers over on West Avenue a little bit. I think Toll Brothers wanted to. I think that's Toll Brothers who bought it, right? Who's doing
It
that?
is, yeah, we're working on that.
You are good. Glad to hear that. But I read the other day in the paper that, you know, they wanted to reduce the retail because, as we all know, retail's not what it was. So I would hope our zoning officials would see the writing on the wall and do that here. But,
Right, and it's the same philosophy. You know, the sort of the reason to pursue reduction of that was in deference to the restaurant retail that's already there.
yeah.
It's the dilution. It's the dilution of you know, a central hub that you know, that was trying to avoid.
Oh, it's a good point and something to be concerned about with every development going forward.
Yes, I agree completely.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that what's nice about this is it's timing out with sort of the overall zoning update. You know, we are involved also in the Pinnacle project, and it's not just ground floor retail; it's pedestrian, it's ground floor activated uses. So there's other ways to achieve that is supportive to the existing businesses. Because I definitely have my eye on the vacancy rate in the area and the absorption of that. So wanted to make sure that whatever we develop here is supportive to help address those problems that are not immediately adjacent to here, but are obviously affecting, you know, to the north, I mean, to the east.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry to take so much time.
That's good.
That's good you brought that up, Eric. It's important.
All right, anybody else? Questions, comments? Brian, did we talk a little bit about the 60 spaces and plan 2 here on my, I'm using my pen, but I can't control your screen. Yeah. And when, what the timing is on that?
We're still sort of working through that one, so maybe that might be a nice follow-up once I kind of get to the next meeting.
Yep, that's fine. All right, Brian, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you all. Thank you for your time.
You're more than welcome to stay and watch. Of course, you can't really be too much involved in the conversations, but you're welcome to hang out, or you could go have dinner, which is.
I might take you up on that one. All right. Nice to see you all. Take care.
All right.
Thanks, Brian. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. That was cool. And I like that because it's kind of the start of a series, hopefully, of folks we're going to get in from different departments in the city once in a while to, you know, update us on things. And Eric, it's so important that you see that stuff. You should be a little careful though, because you're going to get put on more committees. If you get too detailed on that, people are going to hear and they're going to want your opinion. They're going to want you in there. You could get very busy very quickly, but it's
my wife's across
stuff,
the room,
so
and she just said, my wife's across the room, and she just said, no more committees.
Well, we'll see. Okay. Fair enough. All right. So this is an action item that we cannot vote on, but I will discuss it briefly. Number 5, the Maritime Aquarium request. Stathi, do you have that final number that we decided to relieve them of? They have an invoice with us from, I want to say, June.
Yeah, I think Rocky's got that number.
4,200. What's the number? You're muted, Rocky.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, we have the number. Actually, I spoke with a lady from not David. They've reached out, but not David. The lady that actually handled the validation chaser tickets.
Yeah.
She made one payment already. We received them this week.
Okay.
So their total went down to $4,600.
Okay. So we're gonna and this is where we left the discussion last time, but of course it's still open for discussion. But what we said was that we were going to relieve them of their past debt through the summer, through COVID. And then their request to be, I guess, relieved in the future, we were going to leave for the future. We weren't going to grant that, basically making them come back to us again if they have more issues later, but not creating any policy around anything free moving forward, just relieving them of their past debt. Does that sound right?
Sounds right to me. Yeah.
Right?
Logical
Right.
to me.
So
Well,
again,
I know we're not voting on it, but they initiated this dialogue, right?
yes,
So, and they are a good partner to us.
absolutely.
As a generator of customers. So I'm very comfortable with relieving the past. And I think that if I understand it correctly, when we do act on it, we will not be acting on anything in the future. It's only in the past.
Correct.
Okay.
Not to say that we're locking out or closing off the future in any way. We're just relieving what we know to relieve today.
Yep, exactly.
And then again, I will get together with Jessica at soon after this meeting, tomorrow, the next day, and we will figure out exactly how to get back together briefly for some votes. But tonight, that's just the discussion. Does anybody have any more discussions on the aquarium request? Any thoughts? All right, that's good. Excellent. All right, let's hold off on the executive session and get through a couple of these other things. I will, so basically taking Tom's advice, we'll push it down a little bit. Let's talk about, wait, why is 7 there? Jess, why is 7 there on the?
So
the
7
agenda?
is there because 6 is that you actively go into the executive session.
Oh,
7
that's
is there. 7 is there because you need to come back into the original meeting, which you're currently in, to be able
That's
to take the vote. So 6
the
and
actual
7
vote.
are, yeah, those two are married
Or
together.
together. All right,
Yeah.
so let's go right to the financial report then.
All right. So I know you've got a busy night, so I'll go through some high level reporting, and then we'll get to Judd's graph, and then we'll close it out.
Nice.
Let me share the screen here.
Yeah, please.
Where is my?
Anthony, can Stathis share the screen?
No, it's me. I'm trying to
Oh.
find my.
Oh, it's you. Okay, sorry.
Okay. Now I think.
Hey, if anybody wants stamps, Costco is doing the Christmas stamps right now. They're really nice.
I can't find.
Was that a word from our sponsors?
Yeah,
Let's get a commission. Yeah.
Costco. Package of stamps. I think it's $52 with forever stamps, but they're beautiful Christmassy stamps, in case you're looking.
Okay. Hold on.
I've stalled them as much as I could,
I
Steph.
know,
How you
I'm
doing,
having
buddy?
some technical difficulties here. Hold on.
Yeah, I could start on the jokes, but it might get ugly.
I might have to leave the meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm a little embarrassed here because I can't find it now. I had it open.
So if I could, I'll take a few minutes. I'm really sorry that the agenda did not get posted properly. It looks like there may have been an issue with the page because we saved the information yesterday. So I'm not really sure. We're going to have to connect with IT on that one to see. But You have all the information. You're going to do discussions today. So I will email you separately to see if we can get a special meeting on the calendar for even just 15 minutes where you can go through each of the voting action items and we can take those votes, and we'll post that. We can post it tomorrow, or we can post it. We only need to post it 24 hours in advance of the actual meeting. So I will email you to try to see if there are times that you are free to get together for 15 or 20 minutes, but I will talk to Mike offline about that to see what works best for everyone. So I do apologize for that, everyone.
Fair enough. That sounds right. Ooh,
Stuff happens.
Okay, so
stuff,
now
yeah,
you see it?
that's the way it happens. Kinda. We see, what do we see here?
You see the ops report?
No, it's your file manager.
No, it's your file
You
manager.
do?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Let me stop the share and start it up again. Here we go. How's that?
There we go. Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
that's it.
Wow. All right, sorry for that.
You know,
So, of course, we're still coming out of these COVID-related impacts to our operation. Overall, revenues compared to budget are down due to the COVID impact, 58%. Year to date, we're off 47% to budget, and compared to last year, we're off 48%. On the expense side, compared to budget, we're down almost 29%. Compared to a year to date, compared to budget, we're down 29%, and compared to last year, it's almost 23%. As far as demands go, the biggest hit we've been seeing is has been really from the train stations. Overall demand year to date compared to last year's down 45%. And on the revenue side, the impact of that is actually more. It's almost 69%. And that's really because of the impact of the rail station facilities, where the rates, the average rate is higher, and we have such reduced demand there. From the permit standpoint, permits are down about 17%. But the one good thing is out of the three revenue sources, the monthly parking permits, transient, and meters, permits have taken the least hit. So that's been good as far as minimizing the losses we've had. It's been somewhat stable, even though it's down over 30%, because actual permit revenue is about 51% of our year-to-date parking revenue. So that's important.
Right.
So these graphs are a little deceiving just because of the scale here. So this is the number of permits, and here's the revenue side. So if there's no questions on that, we'll get right to Judd's graph. I'll bring this in a little closer. So the trend, the ratio of tickets to demands has actually been going down even further, as represented by that orange graph right here. And of course, that's due to fewer tickets being issued. And that's really all I have from this high level, unless you want to. Oh, there's one other thing that at least I should let you know, and that is where we stand compared to the reopening plan summary. So if you remember, we went through that process of when you decided to reduce rates, how we were going to approach a projection coming out of COVID. And so the plan that was decided on was kind of looking at each facility independently and coming up with demand analysis that we applied to it in our projections. And that was the basis for the fund balance request that you made of 1.4 million. So the bad news is there's still an operating loss, which we knew, but the good news is it's actually lower than the 1.4 that you requested out of the fund balance. And I can show you that quickly. And can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so is it big enough? But so so actual through December. So this, when we originally did this analysis for the board, it was from February through December. There was no magic to the timeline. That's what was requested. So to be consistent with that, this is what this represents. So the actual column is actual revenue from February through November plus the projected revenue for December. So it's 11 plus, or whatever that is, 10 plus 1.
Yep.
And then the reopening plan, we took what we projected going through December, and you can see we were off somewhat on the revenues, but we made that up in the expense side.
Positive. Yep.
So yes. So the difference here, we were off 100 and whatever that is, 60,000. But this was the fund balance request. So you were in good shape compared to what the reopening plan was. And you can see, of course, the difference too.
Right.
To the original budget. So that's all I have to report, unless
We are going to be out. I do have one question, Stock. I do have one question for you. If you could leave your screen up. Can you just run me through the specific numbers over the last couple months for the Maritime Garage?
Okay, let me get back to the ops report.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes. So what do you want to drill down into, Mike?
I'm just I'm trying to get a feel for how our Maritime Aquarium is functioning and how they're bringing in people or not. And I'm reading it here.
Okay, and I mean, I'll ask Rocky to jump in here too, but I mean, basically, as we know, the Maritime Garage tracks with the aquarium, and
right.
The success of the garage, is direct relation to the success of the aquarium.
Right.
So, and that's why we always see these peaks in the summer when school's out and everything. So obviously they've been down because of their closures and I think reduced entries now, but so we don't have this split up. This is total revenue. So we'd have to drill down and maybe come back to you on the breakdown on the revenue from the component parts, like transient versus permit. Is that what you're looking for?
No, I don't need that. I mean, I can see the trend enough here. I guess I'm worried about the aquarium. I guess I guess from what I'm to understand, they're taking a pretty big hit, and the aquarium, unlike any other business in town, has to keep staff on, has to keep the pumps running, have to keep the filters going, and have to keep feeding the fish. And so they have kind of a high burn rate, whether they're open or not. And as a big customer of ours, I'm kind of interested in, you know, how they're doing.
So, Mike, I'm just sort of trying to extrapolate what you're saying. At what level of service is the aquarium open?
Right now they're open. I think they're open completely right now. It's just I'm not sure of the readership. I don't know how many people are using the aquarium right now.
Right? Are they?
I can answer that, Eric.
Oh,
so the aquarium is open, but now they roll back a little bit to that phase two. So they are open to the public. It's just that they are on, I believe, 50% capacity. And also what they, one of the big venues for them is also the movie theater, right? So the IMAX was closed for all this month, and now they reopen it just for a few sessions during the weekends. So yes, there are some customers going there on a daily basis. They still have all the members that they validated their entrance. So of course, but they have already to have a much less public that they are allowed to, because they have to follow all the guidelines. On top of that, some of the things that they can make even more money, that is like the cafeteria and the shop, that is also having a big hit because there is a lot of less people that they are serving. But I believe that the one part that was the one that really hurt them this year is that during the summer, a lot of the schools or the summer programs have the field trips to the aquarium, and none of them happened this year. So they didn't have any of the buses come, and they usually can get an average of 20 buses a day on a weekday there.
So, Mike, your concern, the film, I saw the advert, I get some emails about the film, I don't know if they call it film festival, but it was like the final showings of films in the IMAX. Jessica, is there something that could be done to, if no one's coming, we're getting no revenue, right? So the parking authority, the garage is getting no revenue. So what's the difference in working alongside them to promote their, final film series and offering parking for free during those events, in an attempt to help bolster them, but and at the same time, it's really no loss for us because an empty garage is the same thing.
So we can absolutely do that. We can push out, we can not only partner with the aquarium to offer the free parking, but we can also push out the film series, the last film series with them. So I did hear a report out today that 90% of the operating revenue from the aquarium is from ticket sales, direct ticket sales. So obviously with that level of their budget dependent on ticket sales, they are hurting probably more than any of us know. And, we are working with them on the promotions and the social media piece already. So if we were to use some of the budget that you currently have in your fiscal year for the parking program, then we would be able to allocate some of the funding to alleviate parking fees related to folks going to the movie. But in addition to that, I mean, we can also look at just not charging them and having that be used from another line item as well in the budget. So that's totally up to you as the parking authority, but more than happy to be able to act on that given your direction.
So, Mike, I know we're not acting on anything, but if there are initiatives that the Maritime is trying to undertake that could be, bolstered or supported, by or furthered by us in any way, I think we should take that up. And
yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the reason why I wanted to pull this sheet up and talk a little bit about it is because I am interested in, and I will do this, I am interested in get David back on the phone, or getting them back on the phone, and starting a conversation of how better we can partner with them to help bolster what they're doing. Because I feel a little bit like the second domino, and I don't want them to fall. So I will do that. I mean, obviously it won't be till next meeting or sometime in the near
Well,
future.
I think
but
to a large
start
extent,
a conversation.
yeah, and I think to a large extent, we've talked for a very long time about our role in economic development, and
Yes.
this is economic vitality. So,
Mhm.
so Jessica, I think if you have thoughts, or what the parking authority could be doing, obviously we're not in a position to make financial contributions to anything, but
Right.
but management of assets can be used to leverage opportunity. And so, whatever those if there are opportunities, I don't know. But so Jessica, maybe your guidance on what we could do to, it's no different for the Maritime Aquarium than it is for all the other businesses. And it's just that this one is immediately adjacent and largely dependent on the garage. So
Absolutely.
I think we need to, we obviously need to look at how we're going to finish our year financially, and hopefully manage that in a way that everything's okay with all of our assets. But at the same time, if we could take a proactive role in doing something that that businesses and the Maritime Aquarium can build on, beyond what we've already done, which is, closing this, I guess it's the south side of Washington Street, and then converting the north side of Washington Street to, short-term pickup delivery spots.
Yeah.
I think, we on a separate conversation, we have to look at how we're going to financially sustain ourselves. But at the same time, I'd like for us to not be silent in
Right.
in how we can, and what we're trying to do.
Yes, thank you. I mean, it's exactly why I bring it up. I think we need to do just that.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
right. You're exactly right, Mike. Yeah.
All right, great. I mean, I have a few ideas, but we'll talk about it more offline, I guess. But that's what I wanted. Okay, thank you, Stott.
Okay, you're welcome.
Vanessa, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I do briefly on the capital, but if you don't mind, I want to share a couple of things related to the walk program as well, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, so on the capital, to be honest, there's really not much update from last month. We still are on design for the Webster lot. We haven't got anything back from our consultant yet. We have to get some things that the agencies need to sign off, so they haven't signed off yet. In regards to the design for the caulking of the outside of the South Norwalk train station, we are almost done with the design. I met the Desmond this week at the Sonot garage for a last walkthrough to make sure that all the documents would be correct. We plan to have out to bid, hopefully end of January, so we can have some work happening there during the summer. It will be a few months because we have to we're gonna even try to clean up a little bit the garage on the outside. We'll see what will be the budget that we have. So that is what we have in regards to capital projects. For the walk bridge, I have two things that I would like to bring it up. The first one was in the last meeting, you guys mentioned about returning the temporary lot back to DOT. Remember that there was that discussion that maybe it would be a way of trying to save some money since we would not need to maintain. So Jessica and I would contact DOT into that. So Rails, Connecticut DOT Rails is looking to that contract. And then as soon as we hear back, we may be able to return that. So I'm hoping that, I was hoping that we'll get it done this month. Unfortunately, I haven't heard from them yet, but hopefully by next meeting, we're gonna have already something that we can return that lot, the temporary lot on East Avenue and 4 Point back to the state.
I saw a dumpster in that lot.
Well, I think that they are doing some of the work that they have to do, some on the tracks, but all that work that goes there, we are aware of it. They are not using it yet without us knowing. So usually they have to come for kind of a permit, but we don't charge them for a permit, but we coordinate. That's why we would like them to take over the building. No, I'm sorry, the lot. But we have just to walk through everything to be able to get that. So that's where we are. Just want to let you know that we're working on, and we are trying to give that back to DOT ASAP. The other thing that I want to share with you is that I had some updates in regards to the usage of the North Water lot for the walk bridge. So I think that it's important. It's just, I can eventually give you guys a much more deeper overall about the project, but just for now, I just want to give you some heads up on what they are planning to do. The IMAX is planned to be demolished next year. As you're aware, the aquarium is going through this major renovation. And one of the reasons why they're doing the renovation is because the IMAX will have to be demolished to accommodate the new bridge, right? So they are finalizing now the construction of the aquarium. That renovation, one portion will be done by the second week of January, and the seal tanks should be done by March. With that, what will happen is that the IMAX will be moved back to DOT during the spring. And now they're gonna be ready to start demolishing that building. In some of the meetings that we had last week between the aquarium, DOT, and the city, we would like them to start that demolition process as early as possible so we can avoid the summer month. We would prefer them to not have the big cranes trying to demolish the IMAX when hopefully we'll be out of COVID and people will be really enjoying sauna. So for us to do that, we have to try to get them into the IMAX that it hasn't been in use as much, so they can start doing some inspections, maybe see if they need to do some abutment before that. For them to be able to do that, two things will need to happen. The first one is their easement map. In the last few months, the one that you guys are aware that they have an easement under the bridge and also behind the aquarium, that map is being revised. Based on the constructability of the new bridge, they have to change a little bit the easements that will go a little bit south, more closer to the North Water lot. That map hasn't been complete yet, and eventually we're gonna get it, but it's just a question of getting all the paperwork. So they're gonna ask for a right of entry on that similar area now, where they will be able to start this inspection and maybe access or maybe store some material. So I just want to let you know that the process for the right of entry will not going to come through you guys, will come through DPW. We're adding to our agenda for next month. So this is just a way to try to help them to expedite the process to demolish the IMAX. We're probably going to see that easement coming through the final map in the next 1 or 2 months. And then when we have that easement map ready, I'm happy to share with you just for discussion, because unfortunately you guys cannot vote on it because it will be like a DPW item with a common council approval because it's a city parcel, but at least I can come and under an item just share with you the map. One thing that was agreed in the past was that when they need to close partially the North Water lot. They're not going to be doing any construction from the lot, but they need access sometimes from the lot, or when one of the crane is up, they need to have the area under clear for safety. It was agreed in the past that instead of adding that area as part of the easement for the parking authority, what we agree on is that every time that they need to close the parking spaces, they will pay for each one on a daily basis to the parking authority. The reason why that was done was that this way you guys also can get some funding from the construction. If we all included everything in the easement, that easement will go straight to the city because it's the city parcel. So what was agreed in the past was that although there will be the construction easement, all the time that they're gonna need any closure on the spots, on the parking spaces, we're gonna do as if it was what we do on every single project that happens in town. They will have to contact Les will gonna kind of block those spaces, and then they're gonna get a bill of whatever many spaces that were closed by a certain period of time. So I just wanna give you a heads up. I know that this is a lot of information, but it's also like without too many details about when, but I just wanna let you guys know that starting like spring, summer, and fall, you're gonna start having some closures on the space of the North Water lot.
I think, okay, I think I want, can I cut in here for a second? I just want to know about like what kind of lead time we would have, because we want the ability to put it on our website and, you know, and put up a sign, or, you know, let the people know. Will we have a week's notice or a month's notice, or?
I
Is
think that
a
month may
schedule?
not be. We're gonna have a schedule.
Okay.
I usually meet with them very frequently, every other week on my construction meeting.
So
So I
maybe-
usually know in advance. So as soon as I know, they are the ones that also have to contact LAS for that. Also, because it's under the Walk Bridge program, they are also responsible to put on their web page when there are some closures that will affect us. They have been doing this now. So for instance, at Liberty Square, now that they were doing the drainage work, all the time that they had to close one or other space there, that was also sent it out through their weekly communication.
So maybe there's a sign that we should create that says, you know, for the month of June, expect closures or something, and then we can be more detailed about that when we hear about it. Or, I mean, do you think we need to?
We can definitely put that up if you want, Mike. We are not expecting to have the whole lot closed.
Okay.
It's only a few spaces that we may lose.
Okay.
I'm gonna know better when they have all the map complete, and then try to understand. And sometimes there may be like one day that they need to close everything. For instance, if it is extremely windy, they have to have the boom down.
Right.
The only way that boom can come down is on that lot. So
No,
then we
I
have
understand.
to close that lot. But I think that just during regular operations, it may be just few spaces that may be affected.
I understand. I want to make sure that we pay a little bit more attention to something like this, because that particular lot is really a crown jewel for us in terms of usage, need for South Norwalk, and revenue. I mean, it's kind of our crown jewel. So we want to go the
Yes,
extra
and
mile.
and
to
that's
make
why
sure.
I just, as soon as I heard about it, I would just want to bring up to the
Okay.
board.
Thank you.
Again, I'm not expecting anything to happen at least like late spring as of now, but kind of as soon as I have more information, I'll share with you. Okay?
Excellent.
So
Yes,
I think
thank you.
that's all that I have.
Jessica, if, the timing, I can envision is going to be difficult. You know, I think as spring comes, I mean, you know, speaking from a COVID perspective, you know, spring comes and restaurants are, you know, hopefully on stronger footing by then on an interior basis, but they're certainly going to gain more footing on an exterior basis by that time of year. And to Mike's point, if some or all of the lot is taken out of commission, then it'll, I can hear somebody, somebody on Washington Street saying, great, we've been shut down now for a year, and now that we're able to open, we lose our main parking lot because, this thing is going on. So it makes me wonder if, and I know that you're covering this very thoroughly, and please don't, excuse me if I'm trying to highlight things that you've already covered, but with the IMAX gone, they gain working space. So there are two entrances and exits into the North Water lot. Is it possible just to give them, say, that northern entrance and I think it's probably 2 spaces on the, against the water that are opposite that entrance, along with the envelope of where the IMAX theater used to sit, and say, that's your space?
Yes, that's exactly how is the area, Eric.
Good.
So it's not the whole lot. Again, the whole lot will only gonna be needed in case there is a storm coming and the crane is up and they need to bring the boom down. Then they're gonna need the whole space. Besides that, they are not taking all spaces at all. It's just few spaces as close to the IMAX as possible. And not because they're gonna be doing any construction there. It's just more for safety purpose, because they don't wanna have anything under the area that they may be working.
Right.
So, and that again, the whole idea of trying to anticipate everything that they can do at the IMAX, because there is still a lot of demolition that first needs to happen inside, that's why the reason for this right of entry is to see if we can get them started ASAP and get them out of their area and do not affect the business during the summer month.
Would they be willing, you think, to have a very detailed community meeting of what will begin to transpire once the IMAX is down? To Mike's point about a sign, I think if people
The reason for the lot for now is to get the IMAX down.
Right, but once it's down, I guess it's all revolving around the crane, right? So it's almost like I can just imagine a scenario where we get to spring and it's a beautiful day and the lot's closed because there's high wind and there's crane laying everywhere, which makes sense that it has to come down. I don't think people are gonna understand. It'd be better for them to understand that it might happen, and then if it does happen, then they understood that it might happen, versus having it happen, and regardless of how good the logic is, and then we're trying to deal with helping them understand why it's necessary. So
yes, that's a very good idea. I'm gonna bring to the program, Eric, and when they start getting kind of closer to it, and see if they can kind of maybe have some kind of a public information to South Norwalk.
Okay, because I think that I think it's if it's high wind and the crane's laying there, then I think if people understand that it needed to lay there because of dangerous situations, then that's very different than you're taking my parking away from my customers.
Definitely.
And then another thought is can they, does it gain anything if they approach the site from only one direction, meaning that they approach it from traveling down south on North Water Street only, as opposed to traffic coming across Straffolino or up South Water Street, just to isolate the traffic in one direction where there are far fewer, pedestrian-oriented businesses?
We're not going to affect the streets. This is just affecting the parcel, this
Okay.
one that I'm sharing. The part one gonna affect the traffic. It may be different, and then it goes under the encroachment permit, the DPW review. But this is just particularly when they're gonna probably need to kind of block some spaces so they can kind of work in that area.
Okay, all right. So I think if we could do a public, and now if I'm understanding the progress of the construction, everything's becoming more concentrated on the actual walk bridge now. So I think the community.
Not yet, because they still under the permit. So they need a permit to work on the walk bridge, but they can demolish the IMAX because the demolition of the IMAX is not tied up to their permit. So that's why it is one thing that definitely you're gonna see happening in 2021.
Right.
At least as of now. I can say that and then they change
Right.
their schedule, but it's something that it is not tied up to the permit of the walk bridge. Until the walk bridge do not have a permit, they cannot do any work on that bridge yet.
Right, but my point is that all the outlying projects are complete. So, so now, it's just time for it to become more focused on the actual bridge, which it sounds like that's what it's doing. And, I guess it's really outside the purview of the parking authority, but I think it's time for, we can pursue them to, begin to inform the immediacy, the immediate neighborhood around the actual walk bridge about where they are, what's happening, particularly related to the North Water lot.
We'll bring that to the program for sure.
Vanessa, is there anything else under capital report you'd like to discuss?
No, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Vanessa? Not hearing any, let's jump to 10, the operating report. No, that we did that.
I think you guys did that with
The
financial
11,
report.
I'm sorry, the 21-22 budget discussion, which is the 11th line. Jess, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I had
Want to kick it off?
I do, please. So I had two items that I wanted to mention. One is that there is a line item in your operating budget that relates to personnel, which was in the pro forma for 2022 at $650,000. And what that line item entails is percentages of certain staff time at City Hall. So it's 25% of corporation counsel, it's 2% of comptroller and the principal accountant, 1% of the comptroller's office. It is a percentage of 2 positions at DPW, both engineering positions. And in addition to that, it is a portion of the TMP director as well as the assistant parking director. And we spent a couple of weeks working with the comptroller's office and finance to be able to look at the salaries, look at folks that have retired, what the salaries are for those positions moving forward, and also a few positions that got dropped because of they were under city purview and they were city staff members, but they've now left the city and they're being covered under the operating line item for LAS. And what that calculates out to is actually a $460,000 line item instead of the $650,000. So I am going to be giving Rocky and Stathy the updated number based on the work that we did to be able to figure out what that line item is. But I did want to let you know that that line item will go from $650,000 in the 2022 pro forma to $460,000. As a result of that, that's $190,000 that will not be required as part of that line item. So the second piece that I wanted to mention is something that is timely actually because of your conversation with the aquarium and Eric, the points that you made, which is we do have the parking program line item, and the parking program line item originally was at $200,000. And what we did is we reduced it down to $100,000. And the $100,000 is the amount that the Norwalk Parking Authority agreed to for the marketing promotional campaign contract. And so that 100,000 would then be committed to that same use again for the next fiscal year. But I'm wondering if, due to the savings of the 190,000 from the personnel line, if you would consider putting $25,000 to $30,000 back in the parking program line to do exactly with the aquarium, which to be able to support economic development efforts and be able to give a little bit of flexibility there, so that if something did come up, whether it be the aquarium or some other nonprofit that the parking authority is looking to support through partnership, if we may have that flexibility. So again, the two items are the 650,000 is going to be reduced to 460,000 for purposes of the operating budget when it comes to personnel. And the second piece is considering putting $25,000 back into the 2022 budget, which would mean that that line item would read $125,000 instead of the $100,000 that it reads today. So that was a lot of talking, but on speed dial, on speedy. But I'm hoping that you got what if you have any questions, just let me know.
I guess the first question I have is, do we have, I thought we had other line items for doing things like helping the maritime already that we could, or not. Where is,
so I believe that was also part of the line item in your operating budget reads parking programs. And originally it was $200,000. So that was always the line item that you, Mike, had talked about, to say if we were to do a parking program that was a partnership where we reduced parking or alleviated parking for an event, that's where the funding would come from.
Right. That is the line. Okay. What do you think, Tom?
I think that's a good idea. I understand what you said, Jess.
Thanks, Tom.
A pleasure.
Judd?
So just so I'm clear, we're going to move 25,000 back into parking programs. Is that it? Or we're taking the money out?
So I'm asking for you to put $25,000 back into the parking program, so that if we were to do something like what we would like to do with what you would like to do with the aquarium next fiscal year, that we have the ability to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I think at this time, I think helping the aquarium is better than spending, money with a marketing company right now. Stuff like that. Yes. So.
Well, let's be clear though, the money wouldn't just be for the aquarium. It would be, the impetus of this is that the marketing program, the head of the marketing program has come up with a few ideas that would involve partnering with us again in different programs to try to get people back into the city and get businesses back active again, and maybe offering a discount on a parking for a day for some program that they're going to do that's a lot like our dinner programs that some of the restaurants have done in the past, restaurant night, things like that, where the marketing team would come to us and say, hey guys, we got this great promotion coming up, and your piece of it would be to give free parking for that 3-hour period, or give a break on the parking in some way. And we want the flexibility to say, okay, great, we put a chunk of money aside just for this, so let's discuss it. Maybe we can put a little money towards it. So it's not just the Maritime Aquarium, but it's programs like that.
Okay.
And I do want to be clear that that might not be down without coming to you and explaining to you and asking your a permission or to seek your approval to be able to make that happen. So whether it be something like a partnership with the aquarium or like something that Mike is talking about, it would be presented to you and we would request for your approval, but that it would not just be drawn down.
Excellent.
And
Right.
we still don't have that money. This is just the budget proposal.
Yep.
Correct. What I don't want to be, what I don't want to have to end up saying, Tom, is sounds like a great program, guys. There's nothing in our budget for that. Sorry. You know what I mean?
Oh, no,
And right. And we have the ability to do this, so we should. Okay. Not a voting topic, though. Just something to think about. Talk about.
Well, I think this is excellent. I think this is exactly what one of the things we should be doing, regardless of COVID. I just wonder if 25,000 is enough, because I don't know how far that projects out. And I don't know when it initiates or how far it projects out from when it initiates. Because I think one of the things, our role in economic, I've always felt that we had a very strong role in economic development, but it's sort of shifted now, and where it's more about economic sustenance and vitality, and which is I think kind of where we are. So given the differential between the 25,000 and our sort of savings, if you would, in our budget, I would suggest that that Jessica, maybe you look at, what's the grand plan of all of it, and because my hunch is in the long term it's going to be more than 25,000, and so if 25,000 is a component of something larger, then maybe we authorize 25,000 and then we authorize more later or whatever. But I 100% support this, and I would, the only a stipulation I would put on it is that it be focused on efforts that are adjacent to parking authority assets.
Okay.
Right.
Understood.
Well, and
So
that
I
is a
think-
stipulation. So yeah, go ahead.
So I think what makes sense, I think the 25,000 is probably a component of what could be requested, but what I will ask our vendor to do, or your vendor to do, is put together a proposal of what those events look like and what the assets look like and put a number towards that. So I did, I just was conscious of the parking authorities to go line item to be able to reduce some of the spending. I realized that it was put down by 50%. And so I didn't want to come asking for that 200,000 again, given the efforts that you put forward. But in saying that, we did find some savings. So to your point, Eric, let me go back and let me ask what that number, could look like. We can bring the proposal to you. You can discuss it and see what that looks like, and make a decision. But I will bring some information to the parking authority so you can make a more informed decision about that.
Yeah, because I think, a lot of this, and I think it's what we wrestle with when we try to establish our operating budget, and trying to sustain ourselves, not ourselves, but sustain the city's assets. It's the relaunch. How do we relaunch into, hopefully some of the COVID stuff will be behind us, and how do we relaunch ourselves into the larger economic world of particularly Fairfield County, but also the state and the Eastern region. So, I think we have the ability and the responsibility to use parking in a way that makes Norwalk attractive, and that's what I think we're talking about.
I really appreciate that.
Right.
Thank you very much. I think that's
Absolutely.
great. Thank you so much.
Is there any other budget discussions for this particular meeting? I mean, again, we're not in a voting meeting at the moment, but Stati, we had talked a little bit about some different scenarios for the upcoming budget. do you want to speak to those at all, or talk a little bit about the
Yeah,
budget?
I mean, I think our discussion was that, we wanted to look at what we could do for some alternatives, kind of creative thinking for the end of this fiscal year, and then looking into the next, budget years too. So we don't really have anything to present to you guys tonight on that. I think once Rocky and I kind of finish that brainstorm, I think we'll bounce it off, you and Jess before.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bring it to everybody.
All right. Otherwise, I mean, we are still positive in the fund ballot ask, and we're not negative. So
Yeah, I mean, we're favorable to the fund balance request you made. There's still
right
a loss because of COVID, but it's just not as bad as we had expected so far. So
okay.
So just kind of on that, Mike, I know we were sort of from what I understand, it was made clear to us from the Common Council that, you've come once, don't come again. And, I don't know that is something we need to concern ourselves with. I think if we, our responsibility to manage the city assets and to maintain and sustain them requires revenue. And if we're not getting that revenue from activity and transactions, then then I think that we should be confident that door is not closed, to go back and say, to use not to be selfish about it, but to use our money to sustain the city's assets.
Right.
So as you guys are thinking about all this and you're projecting kind of where we are and usage, and I think it's going to immediately get into what is our policy on ticketing, and what's our policy on permits, and all of that stuff. But at the same time, there's a reality here that we can't we can't talk ourselves around, and that is that if we need to draw again, I think we should have the latitude to do that.
Yes. I didn't hear them say so much that we couldn't go back, but again,
maybe I misunderstood.
But again, I'm happy that we're not so far over our skis that we've
absolutely
gone over, right? So
yeah.
I think holding our own and getting reopened again, I think, is important as well. We're going to come out of this okay. It's just
so I think that we just need to go back, because that analysis we had and the request you made really went through December. So there's still another 6 months left in your fiscal year. And I think that's where we need to go back and kind of extrapolate from where we are now, because if you remember, we had basically assumed that by January, we'd be back to at least 80% of where we were pre-COVID. And that's just, not the case right now. So,
right.
So that is something that we need to look at and need to make some decisions on.
Right. And I think we need to consider, we just have to consider where we're anticipating revenue to come from, and and balance that with, some of the issues we've dealt with over the years, from business owners who, don't understand the value of paid and managed parking.
Right. Okay. Good. Any other budget thoughts? Who's that? Oh, okay. Old business. Judd has some old business. Yes, sir.
Just wanted to say I have been on the phone and email with the Bollard Company, the company that
Ah,
supplied us with the bollards. They themselves don't supply any decorative ones. So the gentleman I spoke with asked me to go on the web and pick as many as I liked from other companies and send links, and he would let me know how they would work with our system. Because we have this spring-loaded system. So that was probably 7 days ago, and he said, "Thanks, I'll get back to you." But I will get back
okay.
in the coming week. So hopefully by next month, we'll have a couple of options on that.
Awesome. Thanks for the update. That's good. All right. That's still on the plate. One of the other things in the old business was the use of the dumpster in the maritime garage by the restaurants up by Main Street there. Did we come to a conclusion on that, or did you, Rocky, did you find out any more about that?
I did. I did speak with the condo association, but the restaurant that's actually subleasing that garbage and that dumpster area has been closed, and they have not opened yet. But I've been in contact with the condo association, and they're trying to get a hold of the owner to cancel their sublease.
So the condo association, our condo association subleased it to,
Not the condo association, but the restaurant that's next to our office,
yeah,
which is under the condo association. They manage that part.
right.
That restaurant subleased the dumpster area to another restaurant that's at the corner of Washington and North Main.
So,
Is that okay? Can they do that?
They are going to they're contacting the owner of the restaurant to to cancel the contract that they have with the restaurant across on North Main, but
Yeah.
it's not in the condo association where they can do it.
Yeah.
so, everybody's time is valuable. So can't we, does the condo association, do the residential and commercial units in the condo association itself use that dumpster area?
Yes, the commercial unit uses that area. That's it's not part of the parking garage. It is part of the condo association. We don't manage that area at all. But we're approaching them to force the restaurant to cancel that sublease that they have with the other restaurant.
But okay, so as a member of the association, we contribute obviously financially to maintaining it and whatever, right?
Correct.
So why don't we, I know there's a combination lock on there now that wasn't there before. So why don't we put a combination lock on there that the actual units of the condo association and the parking authority as a member has control of, and then just let the sublease agreement be dealt with between whoever those parties are. I mean, why do we need to be in the middle of it?
We are part of the board members for the condo association, Eric, and the lady that I dealt with, her name is Susan. She's in charge of the commercial piece, and she said she's going to bring it up to the board members, to actually do exactly what you are talking about.
Okay, I mean, in effect, we are, as a member of that homeowners or that condo association, in effect, we are subsidizing the refuse management for an entity that has nothing to do with us.
No, we're not subsidizing that. The commercial piece handles a piece of it, so we're not subsidizing any fee for the dumpster area.
Okay, I just think we should do that. Whoever made a deal with somebody on North Main Street it feels complicated.
Absolutely, and that's why she actually reached out to me today, and she says she's going to reach out, involve all the board members and get that lock changed, or whatever sublease contract that he has, get it canceled.
Okay, great, awesome, all right, beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, we're not really Yeah, I think that's fine. It's the right result, but okay. The second part of the old business, or third, I guess, is a quick discussion on the charge that the app is charging. And the question, if I understood it correctly originally, was could the people pay less than $1 and then be charged less? Is that right? So right now it's $35. It's $1 on the app if you want to park, and it's 35 cents. The app charges 35 cents. We have no control over that. And the question, I think you, Eric, brought this question up originally, was how do we offer, what if somebody was only there for 15 minutes? Could they pay a quarter or 50 cents? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I do remember that, and it's still my question, because I know I'm fairly confident I've parked in Stamford using the same app and parked for less than an hour. So maybe
You mean and paid for less than an hour?
And paid for less than an hour, yes. So maybe Stamford decided that the margin between the 35 cents and the value of the half hour I took was worth it to them. But it's the same app and it's less than an hour. And I'm just curious why we can't have less than an hour.
I did reach out to the vendor, Eric, and yes, it can be programmed as long as you approve it. It can be programmed on an increment of 25 cents, whatever the customer chooses to do. But the fee will not be reduced if you pay less than $1 or not.
Okay.
The convenience fee is still going to be 35 cents.
Okay. So then how much does text to pay cost per transaction?
35 cents, same amount.
Same amount.
Yep. And
is that the same rate Stamford's paying?
Yes, Stanford is paying the same 35 cents, unless you are members. There's a program for a membership for Park Mobile, and that fee gets to 25 cents, which some of our customers also get charged 25 cents. But you have to be a gold member, or your membership has to be higher.
And do we offer that in Norwalk?
The Park Mobile, once you are a Park Mobile customer, they're nationwide, and we offer it over here in our location too. You can use it any facility.
No. This gold status thing. Did we offer that in Norwalk?
The Park Mobile offers that. So if you're a Park Mobile member, you can use it in Norwalk. You can use it in any.
So yes, Eric.
Okay. Well, I'm wildly curious about that because I spend a fortune on Park Mobile, and no one has approached me to be a gold member.
You might want to go, and I'm not one of those, so it's a platform thing for them. So they offer it across their entire platform, no matter where you use it. But you may want to go to like your settings. I was just trying to go on. I haven't used it in so long that I'm having trouble getting in. But
all right, well, I'll figure that. We don't need to take everybody's time, but
yeah.
But if I could just get one thing, at the time when we implemented the pay by cell option back in like 2011, end of 2011, I believe the reason we had a minimum of $1 charge was to make it consistent with the credit card payments on the single space meters because of the credit card fees. And for a 25 cent transaction, it was just just high. It just didn't seem to make much sense. So the thought was to charge $1 at a minimum on the credit when you pay by a credit card, and that's just the way it was. There was no magic or reason to it other than that, I believe. So, but if that's what you want to do with the pay by cell with Park Mobile, then we can have that done.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's a need to complicate things. I mean, if it makes sense for it to be the way it is, then let's keep it the way it is. But at the same time, I think it's really, if I understand past communications, Norwalk is one of the largest users of Park Mobile, or I remember comments in the past about how we're such a great customer and blah, 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 blah. So, what leverage do we have to go back and do less than 35 cents per transaction?
Want to go try to beat them up a little?
Yeah, because if I recall the comments in the past, we're a substantial client. So, I think if that's true, then maybe we're at a point where we should leverage that and say, it needs to be 25 cents.
I think we were the first ones in Connecticut. I don't know in terms of size. I don't think we're, at the top in the number of transactions, because they're also used on, I think, the MTA line too, and they're doing, I don't know, 30,000.
So Stoth, let me ask you a question. If we wanted to go back to Park Mobile and even attempt to negotiate a bit and kind of push them a little bit on a lowering a rate, is that you? Is that who would do that?
We would do that, and we can do that. And
so could you do that for us? Could you go back and push a little and see if you can twist their arm a little bit? Yes, Judd.
If we also have the minimum Park Mobile charge 50 cents or 25 cents, I would think there'd be more transactions.
So that may, right.
So that's your leverage point with them is, look, we're going to do this. You're going to get more transactions, but we want a lower rate on the half hour 25-cent ones. I mean, the
50-cent ones.
Yeah, the 50 cent or whatever, because if I'm running in to get takeout or something and there's no free 15-minute, I'm going to feed the meter. I'm not going to use Park Mobile.
Yeah.
But
it's true, because you can always put a quarter in and get, your 12 minutes or whatever the hell it's worth, and still be all right. So anyway, we would love it if you could
we'll do that.
Have a little session with them and get back to us and see what they said. All right. That's all I had under under old business. I'm sorry. Rocky has an old business. Yes, sir.
Yes, just wanted to report on the discount of the free parking on Sundays at the South Norwalk train station.
Yes.
It's been implemented on December 1st, and it's free on the pay stations as well as on the Park Mobile. Only on the open lots.
I saw the lots were full.
Excellent.
Last week.
And now everybody's going on Sunday.
Everybody's going there.
Outstanding. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You, Rocky and staff. Thank you for getting that done.
How about new business? Jessica? Don't you have something for new business?
I got one new business, Mike.
Yes, sir.
It's past my bedtime and I'm running out of battery here on my phone, so I got to sign.
Me too. Yeah, we're going to do it. Listen, we're going to do the executive session, the MaxX public discussion, and the voting all in a special meeting to pick up where we left off from tonight. So that will pretty much end this meeting now. Does anybody else have anything before I go to number 14? Tom, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I move that we adjourn.
All those in favor? We're not really allowed to vote, but what the hell?
Yeah, well, we got to get out of here.
All right. So look for the email, please, because we'll do it fairly quickly within a few days, and get the rest of this action items done on the meeting.
Very good.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Rocky and I are
If I don't see you guys, happy holidays.
All right, stop.
Thank you.
You
Yes.
too.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
All right, there we go.